Okay? Nung una, pwede ka pa mag-meeting kahit sa bakuran eh. Ito ay isang strike ng mga manggagawa somewhere in the Western Batangas. Okay? May 1 to. So, pwede pa tayo mag-meeting niyan. Pero ngayon, hindi na posible, di ba? Okay? Ito, training seminar to sa DASAC. Speaker was Attorney Carlo from Lipa City. Attorney Carlo Mayo. Okay? Dikit-dikit ang upuan, so wala tayong problema dyan. Ito naman, this is a special event at Padre Pio. Noong September 22, 2019, Padre Pio launched a massive medical and legal outreach. So kami, yung counterpart ng mga doctors na connected sa Padre Pio, andito kami. Kukunti naman kasi ang pumupunta sa amin. Pero makikita nyo sa side, ang daming tao kasi doon yung mga doctors at mga dentists. Nagagawa pa natin yan. Nakapag-outreach program pa tayo. And companies who are carrying out their programs for the poor can carry out massive programs such as this. Okay? Ito naman ay misa. Okay. I think this was June 22, 2019. June 22, 2019 is the feast day of St. Thomas More. By the way, St. Thomas More is the patron saint of lawyers, judges, civil servants, okay, and marriages, especially troubled marriages. So, yun ang kay Padre Pio na kay St. Thomas More na special charism. Okay, bakit civil servant? Kasi siya ay chancellor ng England bago siya pinapatay ni King Henry VIII. Okay? So, yung supposedly tayo mga public servants, siya yung ating patron saint. Nagagawa pa natin, tipon-tipon tayo sa mga religious gathering. Okay? So, balik tayo sa ating topic. Ba? So, ano ang normal state of affairs natin personally and institutionally during the pre-COVID period? Remember, whatever the dispensation is, the overriding principle for government services would be continuity of government services. Hindi kayo nakabagyo, hindi kayo nakabaha, wala na tayong pulis, wala na tayong mayor, wala na tayong presidente. Hindi kayo nagkagera, wala na tayong mga civil servants. Kasi yun ang primary or overriding consideration of government service. Okay? Or a primary norm, continuity. And that's why even non-emergency government agencies have to deal with the impacts of COVID in order to carry out their mandate. Hindi naman natigil tayo ng trabaho bilang nasa gobyerno na dahil sa COVID. Dire-diretso pa rin yun. So sa atin, ano na bago? Siyempre, nung araw, sa SSS, with due respect, okay, ito, kinuha ko lang photo sa internet. Ang dami-dami tao sa SSS. Nung araw, kahit buntis, napila dyan. Buti nga ito, may upuan. Diba? Pero ngayon, marami pa rin. Okay? Pero nung lockdown, siyempre, walang services. Hindi rin pumapasok ang mga tao sa opisina. Ito, do you know what is this? This is job fair. Sa job fair, ang dami-dami tao. Hindi mo kamaya. So paano natin ginagawa halimbawa ang job fair sa panahong ito? Ito yung normal o pre-COVID state. So when we say we go back to the normal state after COVID, ganito ba? Business as usual tayo? Ganito ang senaryo pag job fair? Kasi the ideal new normal would be the after COVID state. Yun ang pinaka-ideal. Wala ng COVID. So, ganyan ba ulit tayo? So, kailangan talaga i-reflect natin. Ano ang binago sa atin ng COVID at ano ang na-imagine natin na dadalhin pa natin sa new normal. Okay? Okay. Kaya ganito yung problema natin normal. Palagi tayo nagsasabi ng new normal. Ano mga new normal? Have you asked yourself, ano ang new normal? Baka hindi pa tayo new normal niyan. Okay. So, again, government services. Anong new normal sa government services? Sabi nila, we have one of the features of the new normal government services is the massive use of technology. Even prior to the COVID state, okay, government agencies have been mandated to explore and utilize to the utmost existing technologies. Kaya nung araw pwede nang mag-online, although hindi lahat ng government agencies. At dahil nga na-pwersa tayo, no, lahat ay i-automate, lahat ay i-link sa internet, nakita natin ang kakulangan ng ating mga telco. Kung paano tayo ini-stapa, nagbayad ka ng malaki para maitaas ang BPS. Pagdating sa gabi, wala rin. Ang anak mo hindi makapag-aral ng maayos. Hindi maka-access sa kanilang lesson. Okay? Now, so ito yung gusto nating i-reflect ngayon. Anong understanding niyo ng new normal? Okay. Sinabi ba sa atin kung anong new normal? O how does the authority say, what does the authority say about the new normal? Halimbawa, ang chief of office natin, ano ang new normal natin? Di ba? O, di ba? Sabi ng mga tao, tuwan-tuwa mga tao, mag-MGCQ na raw. Pero awa ng Diyos tayo GCQ pa. Diba? Eh, kasi pag MGCQ, baka everyday pumasok na rin kayo. Ha? Relax yun eh. Diba sabi nila, after MGCQ, baka yan ay new normal na yung state. So, you will see the transition there. Ha? So, nasa GCQ pa tayo, kahit MGCQ tayo, hindi pa tayo new normal yan. Transition pa lang yan of what will happen or what should be after COVID. Diba? So, tuwan-tuwa ka, magiging MGCQ. Kasi maraming, yung malls, mas maraming capacity, yung mga beaches, yung mga resort, mabubuksan, sabungan, mabubuksan, chismis, kaya raw hindi gawin tayo na MGCQ sapagkat sa Batangas ang pinakamarami yata sabungan sa lahat ng probinsya. You just imagine people in the sabungan. Ha? Eh, mapipigilan ba natin? Eh, parang eskwelahan yan. Ha? Papasok ng umaga, lalabas ng hapon. O, problema natin yun. Diba? You see the predicaments that our policymakers are facing every time they have to lay down certain directives. Okay? Gawin natin MGCQ, ang Batangas, mag-open na sabungan. Well, hindi naman siya naging MGCQ, kaya ngayon, ang usong-uso ay isabong. Ha? Pati sabong, nasa internet na rin. Okay? And how does your notion of new normal affect your work and relationship with others? Okay, now, look at this. Ito, sinurse out ko na lang sa internet. Wala kasi, I think in June or July of 2020, the DTI conducted an online survey about the new normal as perceived by different sectors. So yung mga nasa transport, anong new normal sa inyo? Yung nasa businesses, anong new normal sa inyo? Pero hindi naman yata nasama yung pangkaraniwang tao lang, anong new normal sa iyo? O ikaw na nasa government agency, anong new normal sa atin? Okay, sabi ng isang columnist sa The Star, okay, new normal means a new way of living and going about our lives, work, and interaction with others. Okay, a new way of living. Nakita na ba natin na we have a new way of living, or do we see this as merely temporary until such time that we can go back to what is or what was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic? Okay. The other input would be, according to the survey conducted by Twitter, okay, some fascinating behavior emerged as part of our new normal. So, parang conduct yan na emergent conduct, emergent behavior. Pero fascinating. Okay? Siguro ang nagbigay ng opinion na ito ay hindi na problema sa trabaho o kaya palagi nakababad lang sa Twitter. Diba? We'll be in week 3 of the lockdown next week and we're starting to see some sense of normality returning. Just imagine. Normality returning. So anong normality returning? Is it the old normal or the pre-COVID state returning? gradually until it's settled again as our normal today, then we're falling into a pattern. Mahirap yan kasi hindi tayo naman nagre-reflect Okay? Sa ngayon sa isang sociologist, ang problema sa Pilipino is that we lack a sense of reflectiveness on the things that we have and we have been doing. Okay? Kaya raw, kahit sabihin mong niloko ka na halimbawa ng mga politiko o niloko ka na ng isang kaibigan o niloko ka na ng isang transaction, nauulit kasi hindi tayo nagre-reflect sa mga nangyaring bagay-bagay. We fail to learn from what we have experienced. Ganun din yan. When we say there is new pattern in our lives now, especially when we are doing our jobs, especially when we are dealing with our family or when we are dealing with others, okay, somehow there must be some sort of reflection embedded in your articulation of your new behavior or new way of doing things. It's only then that you can see, may pattern pala Diba? Example, pagkatapos ng meeting natin, uwi tayo, maliligaw tayo. Diba? Mag-handshake, magkukuha tayo, mag-sasanitize tayo kamay, etc. Pattern na ba yon? Or is this, or are these merely temporary now? Would this be behaviors that we will see when the new normal came into being? Okay, next. Sa Pilipinas, palaging may sagot sa lahat ng problema. May isang nag-propose ng batas tungkol sa new normal. Sabi sa House Bill 6623, New Normal for Workplace and Public Spaces Act of 2020. Parang namatay na naman yata yan sa House. I don't know if it was passed by the Senate as well. Okay? Problema dito, pag hindi ka sumunod, may penalty na 2,000 to 50,000. Okay? But remember, the standards contained in the said proposed bill are standards that have been implemented and being implemented by our government agencies already. Kaya lang sa atin, ang sagot ng Kongreso, batas. Kasi nga, batas ang kanilang ginagawa. So, halimbawa dito, universal and mandatory safety measures, wearing of masks in public spaces, places, and mandatory social distancing. Ginagawa na natin yan so bakit natin ilalagay sa batas? Okay? Remember, the new normal was not defined. Sabi rito, standards standards for the new normal. So ito ba after COVID na? Or during COVID pa? Ibang during COVID natin ay temporary lang, transition lang, o iyan na talaga ang ating new normal? Sige. Pag-usapan natin tong wearing of mask. Siguro yan magiging normal sa atin You know why? Wala pa namang COVID, ang mga taga Batangas ay nag-wear na ng mask. Two things, di ba? Sumabog ang taal. Ikalawa, because of the pollutants around us. Ang dami ng pollutants sa atin. Kasi pag nag-wear ka ng mask, ang sabi, mahina kasi ang baga kaya nag-wear ng mask. Pero it is not far-fetched that it will become part of our lives with or without COVID in the future. Yun lang, mandatory social distancing ang problema natin. Okay. Let me ask you, based on your observation, nasusunod ba siya sa ating mga offices? Minsan lit ang ating mga offices Nasusunod ba siya sa public places? Hindi Sa supermarket o kaya doon sa malls? Hindi, kasi ang mag-wheathearts, ang mga labidudes ay magkakatabi. So doon tayo may problema talaga. How are we going to enforce that? Anyway, it's good na meron namang nag-propose ng batas para sabihin, ito dapat ang ginagawa sa new normal. Pero like what I said, even without this bill or law, we would comply with whatever the government would say as necessary requirements in the conduct of our affairs, especially us in the government. Okay. So ito yung sagot ng Kongreso. Hindi naman dinefine ano ang new normal. Okay. Kaya tanungin ngayon, how does your notion of new normal affect your work and relationship with others? Paano ba talaga? So problematic yata yan. Isipin niyo ang impact ng COVID para maintindihan natin kung ano yung epekto sa atin ng salitang new normal. That's our basic. Ang daming namamatay. Whether you like it or not, human life is very precarious nowadays. Buhay ka ngayon, nagka-COVID ka, patay ka after 2 weeks. I mean, some of us may have experienced that. Merong isang pamilya, nalalinan yung nagtatrabahong ama, yung asawa, yung panganay na anak, at yung tiyuhin, lahat nagka-COVID, 2 namatay. With that in mind, then we may be able to reflect what are the personal implications of our notion about new normal. Talagang itong ating pandemic, ang dala talaga nito ay kamatayan. Ang daming namamatay. Ang dami ring walang trabaho, lalong naghihirap. In 2013, there was a lecture in Atty de Manila given by a Jesuit priest who happened to be one of the known moral theologians in Atty de Manila. And in that lecture, he said, it is used to be that the middle class in the Philippines is around 9% of the population. Pero around 2013, yung 9% daw ay bumaba na ng mga 8%. I don't know if it is his notion only or whether that was a product of his serious study. O ngayon, kung sabihin natin na 10% ang, sabihin natin hindi 9%, 10% or around 15% ang middle class sa Pilipinas during the normal state of the pre-COVID state. Ngayon, ilan na kaya ang middle class? Would it be bigger than 10% or 15%? Or would it be lesser than 8%? Okay. Put that in your mind, consider that, and reflect. What would be the personal implications of the so-called new normal so far as we are concerned? Kung tayo nasa government agency, sa new normal, anong implikasyon na sa ating personal? How do we imagine the new normal? Anong attitudes ang ating dadalhin papunta dun sa new normal? Okay? Next. Ito yung sinasabi ko. Hindi naman ganun kasi yan na normal, then you go to new normal. Past, then you go to the future. Hindi ganun eh. You know, the pre-COVID state is our past. The new normal is our future. What we have now is a non-normal state of affairs. Our present is non-normal. We are still in an emergency situation. We are still in the situation where people died by the numbers, or where people are hospitalized by the numbers, where people lost job by the numbers, or in volumes, di ba? Andun pa tayo sa non-normal eh. So anong new normal ang sasabihin ng ating government? Transition yun eh. They see things as linear. When the fact is, okay, o sige, bago tayo doon sa sinasabi nating linear, itong ating kwan ngayon, ito yung ating ginagawa, job fair, virtual na. How effective is this? I think that we should evaluate how effective is virtual job fairs in the coming years, in the coming months. Paano naging effective? Siyempre, tama yung kanina narinig ko kay Dr. Perez yata. I'm not sure kung si Dr. Perez. Kailangan natin ng labor management information. Kailangan natin ng survey, localized survey. So that our decision, our plan will be evidence-based. Anong gagawin natin? Wala naman tayong database. Yan ang problema sa atin, di ba? Sinasabi niya, yun daw mga policy makers natin actually ay hindi naman evidence-based ang ginagawa nilang policies. Kasi walang database eh. So tayo, ganun din. Itong ating non-normal ngayon, the virtual, kung hindi ka makapag-virtual, wala tayong ginagawa, no? Report lang tayo, report. Ito pa. Imagine this. Ito ha. Ito yung mga mega boxes, one of the programs that we have adopted in the St. Thomas More Association of Lawyers for Transformation. Bakit may mega boxes? Bibili ka mega boxes, bibigay mo sa mga teachers, sa mga principal. Kasi yung modules ng mga bata, doon ilalagay, dadalhin sa barangay hall. Doon pipick upin ng magulang. Pag ginawa ng mga bata ang kanilang modules, doon din ilalagay, doon pipick upin ng teacher. Okay? Ang ginagawa naman ng iba ngayon, diretso na sa school. But just the same, mega boxes. Bakit mega boxes? Maraming modules eh. At saka, pag umulan, kahit bumahayan, hindi yan masisira. Ito ha, ang nakadisclose ditong person ay yung principal at saka yung teacher na kausap ng grupo namin. You know, kung ito ay normal state, ang daming ceremonies niyan, ang daming photo ops. May program pa yan. Pero ngayon, ilan lang, dalawa lang na nasa eskwelahan plus yung nag-deliver. Okay? Non-normal pa rin tayo ngayon. Di pa natin define ano ang new normal sa ating mga gawain at sa ating trabaho. Ito, MISA. This was 2020, June 22, 2020, St. Thomas More Peace Day. Ang misa namin ginagawa sa seminaryo kasi ang spiritual director namin si Father Eugene Hechanova. Okay, yun ang naka-assign sa amin sa St. Thomas More Association of Lawyers for Transformation. Parte kami ng Council of the Laity ng Archdiocese. Ang dami dati ng kasama namin dito pero hindi na kami makapaglabas ngayon. Ilan lang. And this is a special day. This was a special day kasi piyesta. The feast day of St. Thomas More. Okay? O yan lang, nagpicture lang. Konti lang kami. Diba dati 30% lang inaalaw sa mga simbahan. Naging 50% na ngayon. Dan normal pa ito, hindi pa new normal. Hindi pa natin alam kung makapagsimba pa tayo sa new normal o hindi. Baka new normal natin mas grabe kaysa non-normal. Okay? Diba? Past, present, future. Okay? We are still in the present and we are trying to get into a COVID-free future. Okay? Siguro kung na-vaccinate na ang, let's say, 60 or 70% ng Filipinos na nagkaroon ng vaccination, baka we can say, this might be the beginning of our new normal. Okay? So, question ko nga palagi, ano ba yung new normal? So, there are certain contradictions which may arise from measures that government or that the government may adopt in order to manage the coronavirus 19. Yung mga measures na ginagawa ng gobyerno, may tatlo halos na general purposes yan. I-maintain ang pre-COVID state of affairs. Halimbawa kayo, pagkatapos ng lockdown, then you have been required to go back to your work. Hindi nga lang sabay-sabay. Di ba? Kasi ang opisina naman natin is non-emergency government agencies. Di ba? Pero doon sa mga emergency government agencies, ano ba? Yung DOH o yung PDRRMO yata ang tawag doon kapag may calamity, sila pumapasok sa trabaho. So yung mga measures na binibigay sa atin, ito yung isa sa purpose, i-maintain ang pre-COVID state of affairs. Diba? We deal with people, we dispense claims of people. We provide services. Ikalawa, address COVID-19 impacts. Okay? Makikita naman ninyo yung mga isuwan sa halimbawa sa DOLE, talang ang isa sa criterion ng guidelines na pinatutupad ng DOLE is how to address at your level and in the administrative level the impacts of COVID-19 vis-a-vis our work, vis-a-vis our institution. And last, introduce adaptation policies as prerequisites for managing the new normal. Whatever the new normal is. Okay? Well, you will have to forgive me for saying hindi pa ito ang new normal. Nasa transition pa tayo. Sabi natin, these measures may naturally be in contradiction with one another insofar as their nature and consequences are concerned. They embody the paradox that COVID-19 reality imposed upon states and societies. Okay? Mayroon daw, ito na talaga yung sinasabi ko. Kanina linear, pero ito interacting na eh. Ang realidad ay hindi linear. ang realidad ng ating buhay ay complex. Ha? Sabi do sa statistics, di ba? If it's not linear, if the relationship is not linear, it might be something else. Ano yun? Curvilinear? Siguro curvilinear kung hindi siya linear. Pero pagkakaintindi natin sa buhay, usually linear. Pag ginawa mo ito mangyayari sa hinaharap. Ito yung kanyang magiging reaction. Pero hindi eh. Ha? Complex sa realidad eh. Ano bang pelikula yon na yung bida bumalik sa past tapos pinatay niya yata si Baby Hitler? Sino ba yon? Deadpool ba yon? Parang si Deadpool, di ba? Nakabalik siya sa past, install niya si Baby Hitler. Ang iniisip niya, kung papatay niya si Hitler, hindi mangyayari yung Holocaust. Okay? That thinking is linear. Kapag ginawa mo ito, baka hindi mangyari yan. Pero hindi, komplikadong history. And our lives are not simple. Our lives are complicated. Reality is complicated. So yan. You see at the diagram, ang new normal, ang mga policies na ating gagawin, okay, ay dapat nasa middle. That dimension where these three circle interacts. Okay? So, when we say new normal, baka ito, sorry for saying this, I'm not sure about this, baka ito is a new state of affairs where COVID is still existing or where COVID may not be existing. Kaya 'di ba sa atin ang moda ng ating paggawa ng trabaho ay do your work in spite of COVID. COVID should no longer be our problem when we do our work. Do your work in spite of COVID pandemic. Okay. Baka yun ang new normal eh. Siguro if you're going to look at how the government addresses the consequences and the impacts of COVID pandemic, baka ang ma-imagine natin future is something that would still have the COVID pandemic around. Okay, next. Contradictions are bound to arise from the impact of COVID-19 because reality is not linear but complex. Kahit ikaw gusto mo mangyari isang bagay, pero in spite of all your intentions, okay, that might not happen because the outcome may be affected by the decision of other persons or other people. That's how complex our reality is. Okay, let's go ahead. Itong sabi natin, di ba? How are we going to manage the COVID-19 pandemic? We are in state of paradox. There are two contradicting variables or elements that are existing at the same time. And a choice of one would not be available to you because those two are interrelated. And a policymaker, or let's say a manager, whether in a public service or in a private service, would have to make some trade-off in order to deal with the consequences of the pandemic. Halimbawa, kung policymakers, kita naman ninyo ito ano mga ating bibigyan ng malaking priority, yung health and safety, yung human life, o yung economic development? Kaya nga ayaw na mag-lockdown kasi wala nga mapasweldo sa tao Bakit nag-lockdown? Kasi mas importante raw naman ang kalusugan ng tao kaysa diyan sa economic development na yan. Individual freedom versus collective interest. Sabi nila, bakit daw ang Vietnam has able to address immediately the COVID-19 pandemic or the onset of the pandemic? Bakit? Kasi they were able to balance the individual freedom of people, okay, and that of the collective interest of the people for health security. So okay lang sa kanila na sila i-monitor ng government. In the first place, it's a communist country. They would have no choice at all. You look at the South Korea. Diba sabi na pagdating mo sa airport, bibigyan ka na ng parang passcode sa iyong cellphone para ma-monitor ka kung nasaan ka. Pero sa Pilipino, hindi po pwede basta-basta yun. It's violation of our privacy. Yan ang sisigaw natin. If you are in the government, how are you going to balance these things? Hindi kasi po pwede na ibaliwala mo yung individual rights ng isang tao because of the collective interest. There must be a balance and the balance must be maintained. And a government administrator must be able to strike a balance in appropriate time and in appropriate manner. O itong transparency, privacy rights, o itong efficiency at saka equity. O, di ba? This is let us relate this to the use of resources. Tanda ba niyo yung away, yung argumento? Bakit yung mga mahihirap na yan, ang bibigyan natin ng ayuda? Hindi naman sila nagbabayad ng buwis. Bakit yung middle class kami binibigyan? Mas madali kami mabigyan, sa totoo lang, mas efficient kasi nga, we are in the system. May ATM, lahat na, etc. etc. You have to balance efficiency with equity. Bakit puris of the poor ang binibigyan natin? That's equity. O i-claim natin, babayad ako ng buwis, wala namang natatanggap sa gobyerno. See, ganun kasi yan kahit sa organisasyon ninyo, nagme-member ka, not because of material benefits. There might be some other benefits, protection, or let's say psychological satisfaction or psychological benefits, but not material benefits. Okay? So kayo, pag halimbawa, gagawa kayo ng programa, you will have to balance this thing. Gusto mo mag-carry out ng job fairs. Paano ang health and safety ng tao kung hindi natin ma-manage? Freedom of expression, tapos preventing rumors and panic. Yung fake news. Tapos to, centralized decision-making vis-a-vis decentralized decision-making. Ang criticism ng marami, and I understand the criticism, and this criticism should have been addressed properly. Yung mga policies na atin, ibinababa lang ng IATF o ng Malacanang, hindi kami konsultan local government. Hindi lang kinakonsultan local government. And since local governments are not consulted, most often than not, the local governments, suffered from certain policies which might not be proper for implementation in their localities. Tandaan yung kaso ni Mayor Bico, di ba? Yung paggamit ng tricycle para sasakyan ng mga first responders o yung mga frontliners natin. Sabi kasi ng national government, bawal ang mga tricycle. Walang consultation And that's the claim of many of our local government officials. Hindi naman kami kinokonsulte. Even in the choice of the facilities where people would be secured at the time that they have been infected. Sabi nila kapag 1-star, 2-star hotel, hindi po pwede kasi ang cost lang niya per night ay 1,000 o 2,000 pesos lang. Ang gusto raw ng policy ang gusto raw ng mga implementors ay dapat yung mga hotel na mga 3,000 per night, per day. You know why? Kasi sa kanila naman daw nanggagaling ang budget. That's the reason why I was asking, bakit sa atin walang facility dito sa San Jose? Ay hindi raw kasi pwede kasi ang nagde-decision nga IFTF dapat ay yung maayos na hotel. Kahit gusto ng local government, hindi kaya. Bakit? Ang desisyon ay nanggagaling sa national government. Kaya a good administrator must be able to balance this thing. Okay? Ito yung paradox, ito yung dalawang bagay na existing sa atin. Centralized decision making vis-a-vis decentralized decision making. Ano lang pwede sabihin ng local government ngayon pagkadating sa anti-COVID campaign? Wala yata. And this is a campaign. And the frontliners are those in the local governments. Okay? Let's go on ahead. So yan, yung nasa gitna natin, letter G, yan ang government. Kumbaga, sa inyong level, yan kayo. The pandemic showed the central role of public governance to maintain dynamic balance between competing values such as the need to protect human life and the economy. Okay. So doon tayo sa requirements to strengthen governance. Hindi ko na i-discuss yung masyadong structural. Pero mayroon tayong certain institutional and personal requirements necessary to forge or maintain balance among competing values. Ito lang palagi ko sinasabi, ang overriding requirements dito ay resources and program. Baliwala yung mga requirements nating institutional o personal kung wala tayong pera. Kung walang pera ang local government natin, Halimbawa kung sa kayo naroon, hindi makakabili ng vaccine yan. Mag-iintay lang talaga yan sa national government. Kung may pera pero walang program, hindi rin magkakabaksin yan. Mag-iintay din lamang yan sa national government. Kayo rin naman di ba? Kung ano mang gusto niyong gawin sa buhay bilang public servant, kung walang resources, pwede kayo yung ano ba yung operating expenses ng inyong agency, yan ang sinusweldo nyo. Pero hindi sapat yun. Dapat may program, di ba? Kahit may program kayo, kung wala ring resources, wala rin. And you will see the dilemma of those sitting in the national government. Okay? Ako personally, ang dami kong criticism kasi sa gobyerno, pero hindi ako bumabanat ng masyadong personal. At hindi ko rin masyadong pinagagalitan yun kasi ito yung complexity ng kanilang trabaho. Saan tayo kuha ng pera? You will understand why the president is always say, wala tayong pera. Dati sabi niya, may pera. Binigyan tayo ng US ng ganitong pera. Binigyan tayo ng China ng ganito. Tapos wala tayong pera. Okay? Okay, sige. May pera. Ano yung program? In your level, ganun din yun . How are you going to strengthen the delivery of services if you have no resources and you have no program? Well, when you speak of resources, your services are part of that resources. Kayo ay human resource. Diba? Pero hindi sapat yun. When we speak of resources, malaki ditong bahagi material resources. Okay, sige. Ito yung policy recommendation based on United Nations Department of Economics and Social Affairs. Hindi na natin masyadong discussing malalim to kasi ito siguro sa mga matataas na level na tayo naman ay hindi tayo ang decision makers. Okay? Pero makikita nyo dito, halimbawa itong nakalagay dito, providing for financial resources for pandemic and crisis before they happen. So, paano natin papasok yan sa budgeting halimbawa ng gobyerno? Halimbawa ay sustaining responsible, responsive, accountable, and people-focused leadership. People-focused leadership in public sector institution. Ito'y proposal pa lang o suggestion related na sa Department of Economics and Social Affairs. Ang matindi sa atin, siyempre, yung personal requirements. Sabi ng same document, ang attributes daw natin bilang public servant during this pandemic must be one, self-sacrificing. Okay? Trustworthiness, risk-taking, creativity, transparency, accountability, persistence, empathy, collaborative, competent in the use of technology. Siguro yung number 11 kaya natin coveran. Pero ang self-sacrificing, it is something that should be innate to you. You must be able to do things under the ideals of self-giving. Hindi ipagpasok mo lang kasi self-sacrificing na yon. Duty ka, binabayaran ka ng gobyerno. With all due respect, at marami ang magagalit at masasaktan sa aking sasabihin, pag ginawa natin ang trabaho natin bilang public officials, halimbawa ako dati nung araw sa Public Attorney's Office, 5 years din ako doon. Binabayaran ako ng gobyerno para pagtanggol yung mahirap para magbigay ng kanilang services. Hindi ko dinadaya ang gobyerno, hindi ako nagsa-sideline. Okay? My job made me feel good. But on the hindsight, okay, my job is just my job. Okay? I have no added value to it. Ginawa kong trabaho ko, then kahit di ako pasalamatan, okay lang. But for a public official or a government employee, if you do things outside your job, hindi nakasama sa trabaho mo, yun ang yung binibigay, yun ang self-giving. Hindi lang naging matapat ka sa trabaho kasi pagiging matapat sa trabaho kasama sa iyo sa binabayaran sa iyo. Yung hindi mo pag-i-encourage ng corruption because we must always discourage corruption at all levels. Ang terminology kasi natin, we fight corruption, tama yun. Pero at our personal level, the first thing that we should do is to discourage corruption. I-discourage natin corruption. We should not place ourselves in a situation where we cannot say no to corrupt activities. We discourage, we run away from corruption. Okay? Kasama yun sa trabaho natin eh. Pero if you do things outside of your regular duties, that is self-sacrificing. That is self-giving. Okay. Remember this also, that as public managers or public employees, we are the drivers of culture in our community. We create certain values. We solidify certain values. Sa new public management theory, yan tinatawag natin public values. Okay? So maraming sources ng definition natin ng public values. Pero tayo mismo, we create, we strengthen public values. Okay? And the public values that we're talking about must be consistent with your own personal values. Eh kung tatamad-tamad ka naman, kahit sabihin mo na, sabi natin, transparent tayo at saka tayo ay may fidelity, devotion sa duty. Wala rin yan. Di ba? Kung business as usual ang thinking natin. Okay? Pandemic pa rin tayo, so dapat hindi business as usual. Okay. So, ito ang tatlong bagay na dapat ginagawa natin para ma-strengthen natin ang ating gawain. We must raise public confidence by strong ethical competence and transparency. Okay. Second, we must build a community characterized by mutual trust and support. Third, we must foster higher devotion to public service and welfare. I-take up natin saglit itong mga bagay nito. Strong ethical competency implies that officials must have heightened sense of moral attributes and avoid actions and behaviors which may be perceived as violative of policies and norms enforced, especially during pandemic. Tingnan yung picture. Paano susunod ang tao? Halimbawa, kung hindi naman nakikita natin sa ating mga opisyalis ang pagsunod sa mga polisiya na kanilang pinatutupad, how would you raise the level of confidence or the level of confidence of the public to the public service or to our government if you would not exhibit fidelity to the rules or to the norms being enforced during this time of pandemic? Edi siyempre mapapamura ka na lang sa internet, sa Facebook. Diba? Pero at our own level, paano naman tayo pagtitiwalaan ng tao? Paano natin i-raise sa public confidence? Nakapila lahat doon sa ATM sa land bank. Dumating itong mga taga-munisipyo na enforcer o yung mga traffic at magdo-duty pa raw, sumingit naman. Talagang iinit ang ulo mo. Hindi kasi nasa emergency institution siya, pwede na siyang basta sisingit ng ganun. Nakapila ka eh. Ang iba naman dyan nakapila, yung mga taong nagtrabaho maghapon doon sa opisina na, hindi naman sila makapag-ATM kasi tatrabaho nga, hindi makaihi, hindi. So therefore, for us, we must have a high sense of ethical competency. Nagpapatupad ka ng polisiya, ng programa during pandemic, dapat nakikita yan sa atin. Okay, next. Ito pa, di ba? Kita niyo itong mga taong to, sila mismo nag-observe, sumusunod sa policy. Okay? Hindi sila complacent. Hindi sila business as usual. So tayo halimbawa, sa mga opisina natin, dapat kinakakitaan din tayo ng tao ng pagsunod sa ating policy. Kung kailangan na kayang face mask, naka-face mask. Paglalabas, naka-face shield. Kasi yun nasabi, mag-face shield eh. Tayo nasa gobyerno, kung tayo mag-face shield, paano naman encourage yung iba? Yun ang sinasabi nga nila. Sila nga, hindi makasunod, tayo pa. Diba? Tapos, isa pa, devotion to public service. Okay? And devotion is considered as love, loyalty and love, or care for someone or something. May devotion ka ba sa public service mo? What inspires you to improve your devotion to public service? Baka kinakailangan i-rekindle natin yan. Babalikan ko lang to. Ang isa kasi, itong requirement natin, dapat ay you build a community characterized by mutual trust and support. Siguro hindi mahirap makita sa organization natin. Pero ang question ko, kailan lang kayo nagkumustahan online? Ngayon lang ba na tayo ay mayroong online program? Kasi community tayo eh. Parang last February, na-lockdown kami kasi nga yung isa kong pamangkin nagka-COVID. So walang makalabas sa compound. Yung pamangkin ko naman sa ospital na nakatira kasi nurse yun. Pero siyempre, sa matter policy, lockdown kayo. So hindi kami lumalabas. Okay? Matatouch ka naman doon sa mga kakilala ko mga judges at saka mga ibang professional. Talagang papadala silang pagkain. Isip nila hindi kami makakalabas. Kayo halimbawa, may nagka-COVID sa members ninyo, papadala ba kayo ng pagkain? O iasa niyo sa barangay? Natuwa naman ako kasi sa barangay, palagi may padalang bangus. Ang hirap bumili ng bangus, di ba? Yun ang sense ng community. Di ba? If we are in the government or if you in your organization have a sense of community, pag may nagkasakit, alam lahat na yun. Ano ba na magpatak-patak tayo sa ₱100? Malaking bagay na rin yun, di ba? O pag may na-lockdown, baka po pwede, magtulungan tayo because that would inspire us to do better at our job. Because we are one community. As much as possible, ginagawa namin yan sa aming organization. May nagka-COVID and we will have to contribute something. We have to send something. Iba kasi yun nararamdaman mo yung sense of community. At naipakita mo rin how relevant is your community to your members. Because it is a question of relevance always. Kanina may tanong kay Dr. Perez, kay Sir Laudiata, paano raw ma-encourage yung mga municipal, mga LCE na mag-ayos ng data, magpadala sa ating data? Question ay, the better question, how are we going to show the relevance of the things we are asking of them? May pakita ba nating relevant yan? Ganun din yun. When you foster a community, when you build your organization as a community, then that community must be relevant to each one of you. So, halimbawa, pag may nagkasakit, o sa pamilya nagkasakit ng members ninyo, dapat alam niyo lahat yun. Kahit hindi niyo papuntahan, at least, di ba, meron tayong konting usapan paano naman magkakaroon ng makukonsol natin yan. Kailangan yan to strengthen our work and to strengthen the performance of our job as public servants. Ito muna, devotion tayo So, what inspires you to improve your devotion to public service? Pamilya mo, pwede ba sa pamilya, tatamad-tamad ka sa trabaho? Napakpalad na natin, nasa gobyerno. Sabi ko nga di ba, magsasarado ang SM, pero yung gobyerno ay magsasarado. Kasi pwede mangutang ang gobyerno sa kapwa-gobyerno kahit sa ibang bansa para lang mapakain ang kanyang birokrasya. Kasi pag walang birokrasya ang gobyerno, walang gobyerno. Pag walang gobyerno, wasak ang lipunan. So we must love our job and we must remember what inspires us to do the things that we are doing now, especially today, that we are not still in the new normal. And even in the new normal, it might be COVID and post-COVID scenario. In that we treat that as our future, a long-lasting one, with COVID around. Kaya nga sabi, we do our job in spite of COVID. Okay. What values help you become a better public servant? Sorry. May kulang tayong Article 8. Sabi, authentic faith, sabi ni Pope Francis. Authentic faith. Sa SALT, mayroon kaming question palagi. Pag may recollection. By the way, invite ko kayo sa recollection namin. Ang recollection namin online ay March 26 sa gabi yun. Father Eugene Hechanova will give us the recollection. Talk lang naman yun Father. Okay, ang question ay, have you become a better lawyer because you are a Roman Catholic or you are a Christian? On the other side of it, have you become a good Christian because you are a lawyer? Ganun siguro rin tinatanong natin. Naging mabuti ka bang bahagi ng gobyerno o empleyado ng gobyerno o public servant dahil ikaw ay Kristiyano? O naging mabuti ka bang Kristiyano dahil ikaw ay isang public servant? Okay? Magkaiba yung implikasyon nun Yung una, naging mabuti ka bang public servant dahil ikaw ay Kristiyano? Ibig sabihin noon, okay, yung trabaho mo have become the seat of your mission as a Christian. Okay? Tapos yung isa naman, have you become a better Christian because you are a public servant? It means that your work becomes an element of your holiness as a Christian? Siguro yung dapat natin tinatanong, hindi mga technical na rason o technical na bagay ang magpapataas ng devotion natin sa public service. Baka may mga bagay na hindi kinakailangang telepono o cellphone ang gagamitin. Baka kinakailangan talagang lakarin natin. Kasi andun ang devotion natin. Siyempre, yung ating mga kinakailangan para maging ligtas sa COVID-19 dapat nasa isip natin palagi. Okay? At the end of the day, the structural adjustment and policy changes can only pave way for the strengthening of governance. The jugular vein, yung vein na papuso, punta sa puso at saka sa brain mo, lies in the hands of public servants mandated to carry out the policies and maintain the norms of public service. Yan yun. Kahit anong institution at kung anong guidelines ang binabasa atin para ma-manage natin ang new normal. Kung wala naman kayong debosyon at hindi tayo determinado, baliwala yan. Okay? I think this is it is past lunchtime. So thank you for listening. Kung may question, okay lang. Kung kumakain naman kayo, mas okay din lang. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much po, Attorney Muria, for sharing with us your competent knowledge and insights on strengthening public governance in the new normal. Okay, let us take note the 3 keys to strengthen governance, such as the public confidence. Let us focus on our community, and also let us devote to public service.
Okay, so attorney, meron po tayo ditong one remark. Ang galing nyo po, attorney, hands up. Yan ang sabi po ng ating isa pong attendees. At dito naman po, we have that, I love that, attorney, promote the happiness of the people and deliver justice. Parang yun po ata yung isa sa mga unang points na sinabi. Very strong start. Clap, clap, clap. And we have here one question. Attorney, what advice can you give to civil servants so that they can really rise up to the highest standards of public service?
Okay. Diyan ako mahina sa pagbibigay ng advice kasi sa totoong buhay. So kasi ano ba standards ng public service, di ba? So halimbawa nasa Republic Act 6713, Ethical Conduct for Public Officials and Employees. Sa akin masyadong technical minsan yung batas. Pero siguro kinakailangan i-strengthen mo ang iyong resolve. Yun siguro determination May sinasabi kasing hierarchy of means, principle of hierarchy of means. I-share ko lang to Kahit kumain na lang kayo bagwan. Sabi sa principle of hierarchy of means, kapag ang objective mo ay material end, ibig sabihin ay proyekto, gagawa ka ng tulay, gagawa ka ng bahay, gagawa ka ng isang proyekto, okay? Moral means is superior over material ends. Moral means is superior over material ends if the outcome would be material means. Ibig sabihin nun, hindi kasi may materialis ka, maganda ang kalalabasan ng iyong tulay o ng iyong bahay. Halimbawa, kalsada natin, may budget naman Kaya kulang sa determinado sa determinasyon, kulang sa kagandahan loob at pagsisikap. Hindi maganda kanalabas ang kalsada. And therefore, in carrying out material objects or material objectives, we must bear in mind that our moral determination or the moral means is always superior over material ends. Siyempre, dapat ay may material means din. Kasi kung wala namang resources, bali wala. Hindi kasi dami-dami ng resources, kung magiging maganda ng proyekto, dapat yon ay parehong andon. Ngayon, kung halimbawa na objective mo ay moral means to strengthen your character, okay? Or let's say to heighten your devotion. Ang sabi naman diyan, simple material means is superior over rich material means. Okay? Kapag nakikita halimbawa ng nag-a-apply sa gobyerno, puro perks, puro privilege ang posisyon, sa tingin nyo yan ay magiging deboto sa trabaho? Diba? O halimbawa, pinakikita natin sa publiko o sa ating mga training, competency training o kaya sa mga ating leadership training ay magarbo. Nung araw ang mga training halimbawa ng mga leadership training ng mga estudyante sa malaking hotel sa Bacolod. Anong klaseng character ang binibuild mo dun? Whereas if you expose our young ones, if you expose our public servant to simple material means, okay? These simple material means are better and are consistent to forming a good leadership quality. Pero kung magagarbo ang pinakikita natin, baliwala yan. Siguro ganun din. Yung mga simpleng bagay ay magpapatindi ng ating resolva. Pero yung mga magagarbong bagay, yung lifestyle na, baka nakakasagabal yan sa atin sa debosyon natin. Yun lang siguro ang pwedeng advice doon.
Wow, very substantial po, attorney. And sabi pa po dito, no, attorney, thank you po sa inspirational presentation and advice. Very appreciated po. And one of our attendees said, galing nyo po, clear na clear po. Now here, attorney, we have one more question. Tama po ba pagkakaintindi ko, attorney Muria, na you are suggesting na we go beyond our works, let's say focus also on community building? I think beyond the work. Salamat
yes,
po.
tama yun. Ang suggestion ko, since you have an organization, you consider this as a community. Hindi organisasyon lang yan, community. Community, pare-pareho yung ating aspiration. Sabi ko nga, crisis tayo, may problema yung mga membro natin, mag-isip tayo paano natin matutulungan. Para tumagal ang ating mga membro doon sa ideals natin bilang isang organisasyon. Kami doon sa St. Thomas More Association of Lawyers for Transformation, gusto natin bumuo talaga isang community kung saan yung mga abogado, yung mga law student naming membro, at saka ibang kaibigan sa civil service ay magkasama-sama sa isang komunidad. It's mutual help. Mutual help and assistance pag may problema. Kung may problema halimbawa sa personal, pag may community, madali rin nating madala eh. Iyan ang kulang sa atin. I think the government should focus on community building. We should build our people as one people para mas maganda ang delivery ng ating services at saka mas malaki ang participation ng ating mamamayan. Kaya nga sabi ng UN Department of Social Affairs and Economics, dapat ay people-directed governance. How are you going to do that? Then we must build community. Tama yung kanyang sinabi dito eh. Focus also on community building. Pero I think you should start in your organization. Be a community, not only a mere organization.